Have you ever noticed something strange about the moments that stay with you the longest? It's not the arguments you won. It's not the facts you proved. It's not even the times you were absolutely right. The moments that stay are the ones where someone finally understood you, not agreed with you, not debated you, but understood you. And that raises a quiet but powerful question. If being right doesn't create lasting impact, then what does? Most people spend their lives trying to win conversations, to prove a point, to defend their truth, to make sure the world sees reality the way they see it. But the deeper truth is this: people don't change because they are convinced. They change because they feel safe enough to rethink. And safety doesn't come from being right, it comes from being heard. Think about a time when you were truly upset, not slightly annoyed, not casually disappointed, but emotionally overwhelmed. Did you want someone to fix you, or did you want someone to sit with you? Most people don't remember the advice they received in those moments. They remember who stayed calm when they weren't, who didn't rush them, who didn't try to win. This is where storytelling begins, not as entertainment, not as persuasion, but as connection. Because storytelling at its deepest level is not about transferring information, it's about transferring understanding. We often think communication is about clarity, say the right thing, explain it well, structure it logically, and people will get it. But human beings are not logical creatures first. We are emotional creatures trying to be logical, and that changes everything. You can give someone perfect information and still fail to reach them. But you can tell them a simple story, and suddenly something shifts inside them. Not because the story was complex, but because it was human. There's a reason children remember fairy tales but forget instructions. And there's a reason adults remember emotional conversations but forget presentations. We are wired for meaning, not just data. And meaning doesn't arrive through correctness. It arrives through connection. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Most people use storytelling to prove they are right. But the most powerful storytellers in the world use stories to help others discover their own truth. That's a completely different intention. One is about control, the other is about curiosity. And curiosity is where transformation begins. Think about leadership for a moment. The leaders who change organizations, families, even entire cultures are rarely the loudest or the most argumentative. They are the ones who make people feel seen. They don't walk into a room thinking, how do I convince these people? They walk in thinking, what do these people already believe and why do they believe it? That shift is subtle, but everything changes because of it. Because when people feel understood, their defense is lower. And when defense is lower, learning begins. This is the hidden power of storytelling. It bypasses resistance, not by force, but by familiarity. We trust stories because they feel like us. We lower our guard because we don't feel attacked by a story. We don't argue with it immediately. We sit with it. And in that space, change becomes possible. But there is something even more personal here, something most people never say out loud. We all want to be right because being wrong feels like losing our identity. If I am wrong, what does that say about me? If I am wrong, was I foolish? Was I blind? Was I naive? So we hold on tightly to our opinions, not because they are always correct, but because they feel like protection. This is why arguments rarely change minds. Because they are not just intellectual exchanges, they are identity threats. And no human being changes under threat. They only defend harder. So what do we do instead? We tell stories. Because stories don't attack identity, they invite reflection. Let me put it another way. Facts tell people what to think. Stories help people decide whether they are safe enough to think differently. There is a quiet moment in every human life where change begins. It doesn't happen during loud realization. It happens in silence. When someone hears something and instead of reacting immediately, they pause, they look inward, and they think, wait, maybe I've been seeing this differently than I thought. That pause is sacred. And storytelling protects that pause. Now imagine if you applied this not just in communication, but in relationships. How many misunderstandings are not actually about disagreement, but about feeling unseen? How many conflicts escalate not because people are wrong, but because they feel dismissed? Most people are not fighting for truth. They are fighting to be understood. And once you understand that, everything softens. You stop trying to win. You start trying to connect. And ironically, that is when influence becomes real. Because people don't follow the smartest voice in the room. They follow the voice that makes them feel safe enough to grow. There is another layer here that is even more personal. Storytelling is not just something you do for others, it is something you do for yourself. Every human being is constantly telling themselves a story about who they are. I am not disciplined. I am not lucky. I am someone who always starts but never finishes. I am someone who struggles. And those internal stories become invisible prisons. Not because they are true, but because they are repeated. And repetition feels like reality. But here is the powerful shift. If your identity is shaped by the story you repeat to yourself, then change begins by changing the story, not the circumstances. This is why two people can go through the same experience and come out with completely different lives. One person says, this broke me. Another says, this shaped me. Same event, different story, different future. And the difference is not intelligence, it is interpretation. We underestimate how powerful interpretation is. We think life is happening to us. But in reality, life is being narrated by us. And the narrator inside your mind is the most important voice you will ever listen to. So the question becomes, what story are you telling yourself when nobody is listening? Because that story is quietly shaping your behavior, your confidence, your relationships, your choices. Now let's bring this back to connection. When you tell a story to someone else, you are not just speaking. You are offering them a way to see themselves differently. And when you tell the truth about your own struggles, not as weakness but as humanity, something incredible happens. People relax. They recognize themselves in you. Not in your success, but in your process. Because people don't connect to perfection. They connect to honesty. There is a moment in every meaningful conversation where something shifts. It's not when the best argument is made. It's when someone says, I felt that too. That is the moment everything changes. Because suddenly, it's not you versus me. It's us. And us is where understanding lives. We are living in a world overflowing with information, but starving for meaning. Everyone is talking. Very few are connecting. Everyone is trying to be heard. Very few are trying to understand. And in that gap, something important is being lost. We are forgetting how to listen, not just to words, but to emotion beneath words. Because sometimes what people say is not what they mean. And storytelling at its highest level is not about speaking better. It is about listening deeper to what is not being said, to what is being felt but not expressed, to what is hidden behind anger, silence, or certainty. When you begin to listen like that, you stop seeing people as opponents. You start seeing them as stories still unfolding. And that changes how you show up in every room. You become calmer. You become less reactive. You become more present. Because you are no longer trying to win moments. You are trying to understand lives. And in that shift, something unexpected happens. You become more influential without trying to be influential. Because people trust those who understand them. So maybe the real goal of storytelling was never about being right. Maybe it was never about persuasion. Maybe it was never even about communication. Maybe it was about something far more human. To help someone feel less alone in their experience of life. And if you can do that, even for a moment, even for one person, something meaningful has already happened. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the rarest thing you can offer is understanding. And understanding is where change begins. Not force, not argument, not correctness, but connection. So the next time you speak or write or share an idea, pause for a moment. Ask yourself not, am I right? But instead, will this make someone feel seen? Because that is where real impact lives. And that is where storytelling truly begins.